My name's Avi Spector. I'm an education consultant with the Riverside School Board. I'm also with the RICE-FGA Regional Service for Adult Education. When I first started talking about digital citizenship, I often focused on being a good digital citizen, really focusing on that etiquette aspect. And then the more I dug into it, and the more conversations I had with educators and teachers, students, I realized that I was almost creating this, being a good person online versus being a good person in real life. And I think the lines need to be blurred, that, being a good digital citizen is being a good citizen. And one of the ways that I have tackled it is that I think that if we do come in and give students an arbitrary list of rules about what you should do online, there's no ownership with it. They're not really sure why we're asking them to do these certain things. Have a conversation with them. Get everyone talking with one another and creating those list of rules together and creating that sense of ownership. I think it's important to address digital citizenship in the schools because often that conversation does not take place. Sometimes in schools we assume that it's going to be happening at home, and sometimes at home we assume it's going to be happening at school. I think one way to help students understand the connection between their virtual and physical selves is something I think that most of us can relate to, which is driving. I often, being a native Montrealer, I drive around in my car and I see people being just horrible to each other in their cars. They're swearing, they're flipping the finger. And then they get out of the cars, and then people are pretty civil and nice to each other. I'm always wondering, why is there that weird distinction that, when I'm anonymous, when I'm inside my car, I can be a horrible person. When I'm outside, I'm going to be nice because I'm face-to-face. I think bringing that example up with students, which they can relate to, and to start questioning that, maybe I should be a nicer person in my car, even if I am anonymous. And kind of relating that then later to things like social media comments and that sort of thing. Maybe they're sharing their work online, having a conversation around that, something that might have happened to somebody once before, and ways that we can avoid it, that type of thing. It's always a tricky balance because you don't want to make the conversation into a negative conversation. You want to keep it positive because, as I've discovered, you do have a lot of students who have put things that are negative online, and you don't want them walking out of there feeling terrible. So acknowledging that, we're not perfect, we've made some mistakes, but what can we do moving forward to make a more positive digital footprint with our students? Let's say we had someone come into the school to do a performance in the auditorium where this person, she was singing. If you didn't like it, I asked the students what they would do. Some said, maybe I would snicker or maybe say a comment to my friend, but no one said they would outright do something mean. They wouldn't. And then what we did is we looked at some example school-safe screenshots of YouTube comments around different performers. And it was full of venom and horrible comments. And it was sort of asking the question to the students, why is it okay to do that online versus real life? Like, you wouldn't do that same singer. The second they're on a YouTube video, why is it okay to start making those comments? So I found that was a good conversation starter for us. And it really got the conversation going. I say, is there a situation that you've experienced? Maybe you've had a fraudulent email or a negative situation online that maybe the students have had something similar, and start that as a conversation piece. And that's a great way to start digital citizenship. Another thing that you can do, which is modeling, the way that you use your phone with your students. Maybe you might want to take out your phone and say, I'm not really sure about the answer about that. Let me take that out. I'm going to look up this word. What does that mean? So you're modeling the way that you're using your phone and also putting it away when it's not appropriate, not answering your calls or texts during class. So to try to create that sense of ownership. If you're creating a policy around digital citizenship, can you involve the teachers? Can you involve the students? Can you see what other schools have done? I think that's super powerful. I usually like to take as many pictures as I can or document other schools that are doing things around digital citizenship, no matter what, if they're adult, youth, or high school, and bringing that back and then saying, this is what your colleagues are doing. Maybe there's some great ideas from there. I think it's important that parents and educators work closely together as much as possible. As I often mention, sometimes the parents feel the school should be educating the students, and sometimes the schools feel like the parents should be educating the students. So I think it's important that to have these conversations at school and maybe encourage in homework or whatever, informally, to have these conversations at home around these topics. And I think if it's everyone's job, we will create a lot more ownership and a lot more awareness. I really do think it does come back to being a good model. being very transparent that I don't have all the answers. And we're gonna get the answers together by discussing certain things. And when I say discussing certain things, like I said, I really do make sure that the questions I ask are targeted. It might be around etiquette, it might be around digital health, it might be around digital commerce, but then getting people to relate their own experiences into what it means to be a good digital citizen, and then going from there.